The Corona hotline in South Africa is 0800 029 999. That's 0800 029 999 for any questions that you might have with regards to #coronavirus. The ANC's Women's League will be holding its inaugural presidential golf day and gala dinner to raise funds to fight the scourge of violence against women and children. The program will start with a golf day at the Blue Valley Golf Estate in Centurion, followed by a young women's dialogue and noon and a round off of a dinner. President Cyril Ramaphosa is on the podium. Let's listen in.
This Act to broaden the categories of sex offenders whose names must be included in the National Register of Sex Offenders. And we will pass a law to tighten bail and sentencing conditions in cases that involve gender-based violence. For we need to do this, for we continue to see those who have perpetrated these dastardly acts going to court and being released on bail and still having the audacity to walk amongst those who have been their victims. This must come to an end. Our 5-point plan of prevention, strengthening the justice system, enhancing legal and policy framework, ensuring adequate care, support and healing for victims of violence, and strengthening the economic power of women will soon yield results. We will spare no effort, we will spare no courage, no strength when we confront this crisis of gender-based violence. This we will do because we are encouraged by the insightful words of our founding president, Nelson Mandela, when he said, "Freedom cannot be achieved unless women have been emancipated from all forms of oppression. Our endeavors must be about the liberation of the woman, the emancipation of the man, and the liberty of the child." Close quotes. Now, in the not too distant future, the emancipation of women would one day become the general measure of the emancipation of society as a whole. We must now focus on another struggle, the economic empowerment of women. Women's economic empowerment is a prerequisite for sustainable development, for economic growth, and the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals. In order to achieve this, we must have sound public policies. We must also have a holistic approach and long-term commitment from policymakers. And we must start by integrating gender-specific perspectives at the design stage of any policy and program. This should also include gender-sensitive budgeting, so that as we craft our budgets, we must be sensitive to the impact those budgets are going to have on the lives of those people who are the majority of the population of our country, that is the women of our country. In a country that was ravaged by rampant dispossession, access to assets and services such as land, housing, water is therefore imperative. But access to technology, innovation and credit, as well as banking and financial services, also needs to be made available to strengthen women's rights, increase their productivity in various endeavors they get involved in. It must also reduce hunger and promote economic growth. Infrastructure programs should be designed to maximize poor women's and men's access to the benefits of roads, transportation services, telecommunications, energy, and all other important life-sustaining services. Women often experience barriers in almost every aspect of life. They also experience barriers where they work. Employment opportunities need to be improved for women. At the same time, women perform the bulk of unpaid work as well. This is an area for greater attention by policymakers through increased recognition and valuing the ways in which care work supports thriving economies. Innovative approaches and partnerships are needed to scale up women's economic empowerment. Indeed, we could say that women in our country could say that they have a good story to tell under the leadership of the ANC. The many victories they enjoy are direct consequences of their relentless struggles over a very long period of time, rallying behind the banner of the vision of the ANC Women's League. Since 1994, successive democratic administrations have committed to a progressive legislative framework and a human rights agenda that is strongly informed by the principles of gender equality. When we empower women in society, what we are in effect doing is to improve their economic standing, we improve their incomes, we improve their standard of living, we alleviate poverty not only for themselves, but for their families as well. By unleashing economic potential for women, we're unleashing the potential of our economies as well, so that our economies can grow and benefit all. Investing in women's economic empowerment sets a direct path towards gender equality, poverty eradication. Women make enormous contributions to economies, whether in business or farms or as entrepreneurs or as employees, or by even doing unpaid work at home. They add enormously to the economies of our country. They sustain it, they carry all this on their shoulders. In effect, women perform what one leader said, 66% of the world's work, and produce 50% of the food that we eat, yet only earn 10% of the income and only own 1% of the property that drives the economy. Whether the issue is improving education in the developing world, or fighting global climate change, or addressing nearly any other challenge we face, empowering women is a critical part of the equation. Another area through which we believe we can foster and enhance the empowerment of women is through the implementation of the recently signed and agreed Africa Continental Free Trade Area. There exists opportunities that women entrepreneurs, and today we had a number of them on the Gulf Coast. The women of our continent need to position themselves to identify opportunities that they could have as we implement this free trade area. This free trade area seeks to create a single market for goods and services, facilitated also by the movement of those goods and services across the continent. It is no mistake that both the preamble and the general objectives of the agreement of the AFCFTA recognize the importance of gender equality. If you go to that agreement, you will find that it has identified opportunities for women and focuses on 3 areas of interest. Firstly, women in informal cross-border trade. Secondly, gender and value chain analysis. And thirdly, affirmative action, which means preferential procurement for women. This agreement is very important because it will enable us to stimulate production through the development of regional value chains, agro-processing and other activities across the continent. The strategic objective of this agreement is to strengthen the capacity of African companies, but I'd like to add that we wanted to strengthen the capacity of women-owned and led businesses on our continent. Now, when we accepted our role as AU chair, we set out what we want to achieve, and we said, as South Africa, we intend to work closely with the President of Ghana to ensure the interests of women are mainstreamed, and want the years 2020 to 2030 to be declared as the decade of African women's financial and economic inclusion. We also said that during our chairship of the African Union, we also want to work with the Pan-African Women's Organization, an organization some of you may not know, which was founded in 1962, a year before the founding of the Organization of African Unity, and it was founded to promote the human rights and gender equality as early as 1962. We have to find more practical and sustainable ways of strengthening this organization, and we are delighted that a daughter of our own nation has been elected as Deputy President of the Pan-African Women's Organization. Now, we want to use a number of levers across the African continent, and we are calling for public and private procurements to be made available to the account of 30% of GDP, and we are saying that Agenda 2063 calls for the allocation of at least 25% of public procurement to be for women-owned businesses, and we would like to see this happening because at the moment women only get less than 1% of procurement opportunities. We say women-owned businesses must have a set aside when it comes to procurement. Now, it is not unreasonable to advocate for preferential public procurement legislation to advantage women-owned businesses. And we believe that it's important to do it through legislation because otherwise it will never get done. And the women will always be left behind. Now, increasing the role of women in the economy is part of the solution to the economic crisis that we also are going through. And we are saying, as we go through this crisis and manage our way through this crisis, it is critical that we should have resilience to manage our way out of this crisis. And empowering women is going to be what we need to do, because when we empower women, we are bringing more and more of those who have always been excluded out of the economy into the economic mainstream, and that should help to boost the economy of our country. So as our country goes through these economic challenges, we will, as a government, continue to empower the women of our country and look forward to them participating effectively in the economy of our nation. Tomorrow, the world will observe International Women's Day, a moment for all to reflect on the notable progress that has been made to ensure that women's rights are treated as human rights throughout the world. All women must celebrate this day and commit that they will selfishly and jealously guard against that which strengthens their unity and their progress. It is important that this day should be celebrated because it is an international day. I will join in some of the festivities, not the main ones because I will be in the Eastern Cape, but I want the women of our country to know that yes, I will also be participating in those festivities as well. Now, let me turn to the most topical issue currently in our country, and that is the coronavirus issue. I want to reassure South Africans that we are all, as a country, we're getting prepared and more prepared to tackle this challenge, to contain this virus. Ever since we confirmed one case of a man who tested positive, and today we've confirmed another case. Now, I have a detailed engagement with the Minister of Health, and he has assured me that the systems are in place and they are getting in place, and they are meant to assist in curtailing this pandemic. We are going to be working together with other countries that are experiencing this and other countries that have already gone past the worst. China is a case in point, and we are going to be working with them, getting the advice, the assistance that we can, and of course from the World Health Organization. And we'd like to applaud China in the manner in which they have been able to handle this. They had the biggest challenge, I guess, in recent times in their history, but they have demonstrated resilience, they've demonstrated capability, and we thank them for having kept our own nationals who are still there, who will be coming home. We thank them for having allowed us as a government and their families as well to bring them home. We thank them for having looked after them. Thank you very much, Ambassador Lee. It is with utmost confidence that I do want to allay all fears and put all South Africans at ease that the situation is under control and it will continue to be under control. I've been most impressed with the way in which our health services facilities, our Minister of Health, our Deputy Minister of Health, Comrade Patla, who's also here with us, have just risen to this challenge. And I'd like all of us as South Africans to continue to demonstrate that which makes us the nation that we are. That even faced with a challenge like this, we should not panic. We should never feel that this is going to defeat us. We should take this challenge head on. And I know that as South Africans, we will prevail. Comrade SG of the ANC Women's League, I'd like to thank you for having afforded me this opportunity of spending such quality time with the leadership and the membership of the ANC Women's League for the whole day today. I feel so enriched in terms of the knowledge that was shared with me, and I can say it's not only the Mayanga who rock, you, the Secretary General, you rock as well. Thank you very much.
That's